8:44 on this Tuesday morning. Good morning to you. Zach Lajway, Mario Diaz coming to you live from our podcast room. Mario, I just want to let people know we're in here because the renovations continue on Studio A. A few more days is what I'm told. Hopefully we'll be in there. But this is a really cool space to have these intimate conversations that impact you at home. I know yesterday you had a really busy day.
I did.
In federal court.
I got up early.
Real early.
Yeah, usually you don't show up to the office at about 7:15 in the morning, but we did yesterday.
Well, speak for yourself. Some of us get here a little earlier than that.
Let me speak for myself. So what happened yesterday is that we had to go to federal court. And why? Because we had the sentencing of William Paul Thomas. William Paul Thomas is the former City Council Relations Director for the City of Houston. Let me show you what he looks like, okay? This is William Paul Thomas yesterday coming out of court after being sentenced, telling me when I asked him, what do you have to say about this? Happy Monday. And he didn't say anything else. But William Paul Thomas was the right-hand man and a senior advisor to former Mayor Sylvester Turner. You might recall we were talking about him for well over a year and a half because of the fact that he was convicted for conspiracy tied to bribery. Now, what was intriguing about this was that William Paul, again, worked as a director of city council right beside Mayor Sylvester Turner. He was a longtime advisor, a friend, convicted in the summer of 2022. First sentencing date was supposed to be in November of 2022. But then here's where the story gets kind of interesting here, okay? William Paul didn't get sentenced in November of 2022. And then they kicked it down the road. Well, because these are complicated sentencings, okay? They can be. You also might think, well, is he working with somebody? Is he actually spilling the beans? Is he saying, hey, you guys got me. Right. Okay, let me show you what's under my hood. Because I got a lot more over here.
Let me help you.
Exactly. And that's what happens. So then he got kicked down the road. And then he got kicked down the road. And then he got kicked down the road. And 8 times they kicked us down the road. So what did legal experts tell me? Oh, that's a sign that he's working with the feds. But you don't really know that until
2023.
No. You find out he's working with the feds when he goes to sentencing. And that's exactly what happened yesterday, because once he was inside the courtroom of Judge Hainan, up on the 9th floor there at the U.S. U.S. Attorney's Office, he's there. He shows up and he says, I'm William Paul Thomas. I've worked with my entire life in public service. And then he tells his story. And then he said, listen, and this what was intriguing. As soon as the feds came up in November of 2022, FBI agents showed up at my home. I said, let me help. I want to fully cooperate with you all. And he immediately started wearing a wire.
And we found this out yesterday.
In court. Okay. So Zach, he wore a wire from November of 2022.
Up until?
And he left in July of 2023.
Oh, wow.
So they said he wore a wire for over a year.
Wow. Remind folks, I know this is a conversation we've had to great length here on KPRC 2+ now. It's been the topic of many pop-off politics. But remind people on why this case is important. This is a guy who, that Porsche ordeal, we had the Porsche ordeal, we had the airport system.
Well, and we'll get to that, but it's important because he gets paid with your money. He gets paid to represent you. He gets paid to have integrity when dealing with matters, issues, and operations that are important to you.
And when we say he gets paid, it's a pretty handsome salary.
It was over $175,000 according to his attorney.
Yeah.
But what did he do? He didn't look out for you, and he took money, according to federal prosecutors, and that's called bribery. Why? He wanted to pocket the money, because that's what bribery is.
Yeah.
He took money to make something else happen, and that was money that wasn't coming from the taxpayer. It was coming from a private businessman for his interest, meaning that he was looking out for the interests of a private businessman as opposed to city government.
Do you think other people will be the subject of this criminal case?
Yeah, that's the question that a lot of people are asking, Zach. Yeah. I mean, you mentioned he wore a wire for a long time. There's some more to that we're going to add to it, but I know we have additional issues that we want to tackle with this. I mean, he cooperated. But the U.S. Attorney's Office in Houston doesn't have a lengthy history of true public corruption convictions. And I've seen this, and I've spoken to experts about this. And that's the question. Are they going to pursue other issues?
Other issues that could bring other charges to other folks.
Well, yeah, but Zach, we've exposed a lot of KPRC2 investigates. I spoke with Chip Lewis yesterday, criminal defense attorney, very well known, very respected. Many people would hire Chip like that. He knows the system. And Chip was very complimentary. I said, Chip, are you here? I immediately thought, hey, are you here because of something else aside to this? No, Mario. Good to see you. I'm here. I got a different case, and I just happen to be here. I'm representing somebody. But Chip was in the courtroom, and he listened to everything. So immediately after the sentencing, I went to Chip. I said, Chip, you think you can meet me downstairs? And
your thoughts on
yeah,
this.
you can provide me with your legal analysis? Sure thing, Mario. I'll meet you down there as soon as I'm done. So Chip comes down, man of his word, kind guy, very professional. And, the first thing he says to me is, Mario, I had a witness tied to this initially. And then he says, and I said, what's the message here today? And that's the point I'm trying to get to. What's the message here today, Chip? And he says, the message is that, this was a case in which he didn't really do his job. He took some money to enhance himself. But at the end of the day, we're all asking ourselves, when's the next shoe going to drop? This has been the talk among legal circles, among city hall circles, and I'm talking about politicians from Houston all the way to Austin.
For quite some time.
Well, Zach, we have exposed so many stories KPRC2 Investigates has, whether involving Mr. Thomas. I mean, let's break it down. 4 years yesterday to the day, we showed on our air a $500,000 email for an offer sent to William Paul Thomas and Andy Icken, the director of city council, the chief development officer, by a private businessman named Jason Yu. Offer was $500,000 to help close a private land deal. We'll give the gift to charity, or the city, mayor's choice. But we need the mayor. I need the mayor to help close this private land deal. We did that story 4 years ago yesterday. And former federal prosecutors that I've spoken to, part of that story, as well as in New York City, who watched that story. Because New York, the U.S. Attorney's Office in New York, they're the best. They're the heavyweights.
They're watching.
They're heavyweights. They go in and they're like, we're going to go after these guys. And that's Pripahara. Pripahara, when he was in charge, he was a legend. I saw it firsthand. And they went after people. And they're like, that's called a bribe, according to the experts I spoke to. Okay? And the FBI and U.S. Attorney's Office should be on it like that. But we didn't hear that about William Paul Thomas. And then we exposed other things. When William Paul Thomas was obviously convicted, we started doing the other stories that we had about the fines in the Houston airport system that William Paul Thomas helped reduce on behalf of Mr. Yu. He owed something like $861,000 in fines at the time. That all got dismissed. They made it go away.
Gone.
And you saw William Paul Thomas in those emails working on behalf of Mr. Yu in his best interests and against the city of Houston, telling him specifically, we think that Mr. Yu should have his fines dismissed. We're going to do this. We don't, and laying out exactly what this man that owed all these hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines to the Houston airport system, what he wanted done for him.
And that name sounds familiar. Mr. Yu, he was the one that was mentioned with the Porsche.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So after that story aired, after William Paul's conviction, I mean, we had Mayor Turner in emails asking, what's the status of these concessionaires? After Jason Yu emailed him directly. And what happened? I got the same question I always get from politicians, from here to Austin, and from you, most importantly, the viewers. They always ask the one question. I hear it over and over and over again. Where are the feds? It's not me. It's what we hear from all of the experts. Where are the feds? Now, why?
What are they doing?
Because the feds, again, going back to New York City, Pripahara, the best, they're the heavyweights. They go after politicians when they say this isn't right. And a lot of people said, well, why is he working for the city? Why is he working out for this guy? So you bring up the Porsche. William Paul Thomas is getting sentencing. He says, I can't afford my attorney anymore. So he goes to court back in October. Remember that?
Yeah, 2023.
Yeah, that's just
right before the holidays.
And he was like, I can't afford my attorney anymore.
That's when you tracked him down in the parking garage, I believe.
Right.
And he was looking for,
He was in his convertible Porsche.
Yes.
He was in his
another one.
A different Porsche.
A different Porsche.
So what we did is we were investigating, and I found him in this other Porsche, and then we were able to backtrack our investigation. And these stories are right now on air on click2houston.com. You can go back. You can go back and look up $500,000 email. You can go back and look up all of the concessions, how much of the insiders at the airport. Mario Diaz, he's gone. Not me, no relations. Andy Icken, how much did he know? He's still in the city. How much did Mayor Turner know? We have that up there in the emails and in the stories.
Yeah.
But then we did the Porsche story, right? The Porsche story. And we were able to show that Jason Yu and William Paul Thomas owned a Porsche together. They owned a Porsche together at the time in which Mr. Thomas, they bought it at the time that Mr. Thomas was trying to work all of these fees to get these dismissed. And again, the next question that I got from everybody right after that, what was the question, Zach?
What's the relationship?
That was one, but
that was my question.
And then the other question I got from legal experts, politicians, I'm telling you, insiders at City Hall, where are the feds?
Where are the feds?
And I say, in fairness, it could also be the Harris County District Attorney's Office. But everybody pushes back on me immediately and they say, no, the feds, they're the heavyweights. They're supposed to be going after this stuff. And a lot of people questioned, well, did the FBI and the feds really, truly know about this Porsche partnership? And the reason why investigators and former federal prosecutors were talking to me about this, and we discussed this, was because that Porsche that they owned was sold earlier this year. And I spoke to an investor.
In 2024.
In 2023.
In 2023.
So I spoke, remember, William Paul Thomas was convicted. They sold that Porsche. I spoke to a federal investigator in the Texas Southern District, and he told me at the time, if they really knew about that Porsche, they wouldn't have sold it. It would have been seized, and they would have sold it later at a government auction after this case had gone somewhere.
Okay, we have less than 30 seconds.
And again, Zach, nothing on those cases, by the way.
Okay. With that said, this is just a really big, important story. What do you want the takeaway to be? Less than 30 seconds.
I think the takeaway from all of this is that not what I want. It's what Houstonians have been telling me is like, we want to see accountability. And you saw a lot of people that were upset yesterday on our website and others as well saying, that's it?
Yeah.
He got 1 year and 1 month? And people are saying, well, what about this? Well, what about this? And they're highlighting our stories. Okay. So I think that the question is what people have been asking us. Where are the feds?
Where are the feds?
And I will tell you, we did put a request in to speak with the U.S. Attorney if they're going to have a news conference about this yesterday. They did not. New York City, again, heavyweights.
Yeah.
Oh, they fight. They convict somebody. They have that news conference. And they tell. But here, there's nothing about this.
Okay. Well, we'll be watching, and I know you'll stay on top of this. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Don't go anywhere. We're airing our docu-series from Rwanda and the Galapagos Islands, highlighting conservation efforts with the Houston Zoo. That's coming up right here on KPRC 2 Plus Now.